Welcome to the Stump, a video show podcast where I cover various forestry issues, career and personal development, and really anything else on my mind. I am your host, Matt Comiskey. Welcome to the introductory episode of the Stump. I thought it'd be good to explain why I picked the name The Stump. Some might say it's kind of a weird name for a podcast, but I actually did have some reasoning why I chose it. And, at some point I'll get all this stuff figured out so that the camera, I'm actually looking at it all the time. But first, one of my reasons the show is about forestry. I want a name that was connected to the forestry sector. And secondly, a stump's often associated with a platform to speak from, dating back to the late 1800s, early 1900s, when politicians would make a stump speech from what else but a stump. When thinking about a name for the show, my platform, the name The Stump made sense to me. Third, I've spent most of my career working as a forest engineer and a forester. That means I have worked on both ends of the process, the harvest end, making stumps, or the planning end, making future stumps. So you can look at a stump as a metaphor for the end or the start of a cycle. Really, it's just one point in a renewable circle as things move on. So there's other reasons why I picked this name, but these are the top 3 names of why I settled for what it is. But why a podcast? I started listening to podcasts back when you really needed to have an Apple iPod to listen to them. But it was somewhat cumbersome to download them and listen to them. Never really knew when new ones were coming back. But once I made the move to a smartphone and various apps started to come out, I became more of a podcast junkie. For years, I was a listener of a variety of podcasts around personal development, business, more recently, true crime. And during this time, I also became a public information officer for wildland fire incidents. But just prior to the COVID pandemic, I started thinking about producing my own podcast. But, to really be honest, it kind of seemed like it was a big task, maybe something that I was more of a big dream. Was I really able to tackle it? So I started reading, listening to different resources about how to make a podcast. I was really listening and watching various podcasts to get some ideas. The big thing I really settled on was there was no one format that was best. There were successful audio only, successful video and audio, interview formats, and monologue formats. And I spent the next couple of years going back and forth trying to decide if I could pull off starting a podcast. I was excited about the idea, then scared of the idea, and this played out for some time. And about a year and a half ago, I was asked to appear on a radio show in Aberdeen, Washington. It was a 1-hour segment of a show called Local Matters with Johnny Manson. I was a little nervous going into it. The host was great to work with, though. The show went well, and Johnny asked me to come back. I am now a once a month guest on his show, and he's given it the tag of Timber Talk. My appearance on the show has reinvigorated my interest in starting a podcast, and with some prodding, really just advice from my life coach, I got serious about equipment and setting up a website and all the rest of the things that go along with launching a podcast. My current plan is to have a mix of interviews and monologue type shows. Ultimately, it will evolve as I go and see what works, what doesn't work, and what I have fun with, and what is not very fun. You'll be able to find the Stump on most of your typical social media platforms. I'd love your support by subscribing to and liking the show, and share your thoughts on what you might want to see going forward. I'll be looking for lots of guests. Either add something to the comments, or you can find a contact form at thestump.io. So for this first show, that's pretty much the end. Look forward to seeing you on future ones. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.